choosing the right time to leave. It's a really tough thing to talk about because most of us get caught up in these relationships and we've been in them a really long time. In my situation, like I've talked about before, I didn't really get to that point until I was at basically the 21 year mark when everything really fell apart. Prior to that time, prior to me realizing that something had to change, I just put up with it, with what was going on in the relationship, and making excuses for it, and coming up with with reasons and excuses, I guess for lack of a better word, every day to just keep going on. I would come up with why to stay, why things weren't as bad as I fundamentally knew them to be. The thing is nobody can tell you when to leave. And if anybody is trying to tell you that your situation is so bad, or the abuse, the emotional or physical abuse is too bad and that you need to leave, it's really not their place to do it. I mean, maybe it's not a bad thing for someone to give you some validation that things aren't right, but ultimately you have to make the decision when it's right for you. And then until you decide, until you get to the point that something fundamentally has to change and you can't deal with it anymore, then you're not ready. And you need to not beat yourself up about how long it took you to get to that point. Like I said earlier in my situation, I mean, I didn't get to that point until 20 years into it. So if you're 10 years or 30 years or 5 years or whatever the time frame is, don't beat yourself up about the time that you decided to stay, decided to work on the relationship. There's nothing wrong with that, and that's what people are supposed to do. They're supposed to work on relationships, try to make them work, deal with the idiosyncrasies of other people, because that's normal. The not normal part is whenever it isn't reciprocated and the love isn't real and it's all an illusion. And like I just said, sometimes it takes a long time for you to really see what's going on. Again, like I said, it took me over 20 years. Now, looking back on it, I can easily say that there were many warning signs and red flags, or whatever you want to call them, that were basically right in front of my face telling me what I needed to know, but I just wasn't ready to see that or to act on it. And again, that's part of the thing that we go through on this. And until you are ready, until you basically hit a breaking point that you can't take it anymore, then you're more than likely going to keep trying to make it work. You're going to keep trying to keep that illusion alive, and you're not going to want to accept the reality of what's going on. So then this rolls into some of the mistakes that I made during the downfall of my relationship. And that is jumping into things way too fast. For me, the reality that my relationship was a lie, basically an illusion, was too much for me to handle. And I basically started responding or reacting emotionally, and absolutely I wasn't dealing with anything rational. Basically, when it hit me that the relationship was a facade, I couldn't deal with it. Whenever I looked at it and looked at the 20-year marriage and realized that, the person I was with, I didn't know, that I didn't realize who they really were, and effectively they were a fantasy in my own mind, it was too much for me to handle. And I know I've told you guys this before, and I basically, at one point I was like, okay, well, we still basically love each other, so the relationship is a sham, but fundamentally we care about each other and we love each other, so at least there's that base. And then I've told you guys this before, that I actually started asking the question of, do you care about me? Do you care about the marriage? And the answer wasn't a yes, right? And that was devastating to me. I couldn't, the idea that my entire relationship was a facade just destroyed it for me. And coming home every day to that was more than I could handle. Now, what I'll tell you on that is that basically started a cascade effect for me, which destroyed the relationship rather quickly. And had I had more time to, I guess, plan appropriately or deal with this in a different way, maybe I could have, modified the outcome a little bit. I think that the relationship was still fundamentally doomed, but if I could have slowed myself down just a tad to really kind of think about what was going on, I might have been able to make a little bit better decisions and not fall for a lot of the traps that were put out in front of me. Now, I was still really fortunate because those traps, I didn't necessarily take the entire bait. There were mistakes I made, but I did not make the catastrophic mistakes that some people made. But it was close, right? I mean, and if I didn't have some experience, not necessarily experience dealing with this, but dealing with complicated situations. That's what my normal day job is. That's kind of what I leveraged off of. I could see what was going on because it mimicked narcissistic behavior, and at the time I didn't know it was narcissistic behavior of people at work. So I knew that I was trying to be provoked to act a certain way to basically force an outcome on the other side. I mean, that's what I had dealt with at work. People push your buttons, they try to get you to do something, then they can leverage off of that to get what they want, or to destroy your position, to achieve their goal, right? And that's exactly what a narcissist does, and that's exactly what my ex was trying to do. So it's critical in that stage to be rational about what you're doing and less emotional. Now, I get that it's incredibly hard, and whenever your relationship's falling apart, it's hard not to be emotional about it because it's emotional. I mean, it is significant. It's a traumatic event that you're actually having to deal with. But if you can slow down just a tad, then you can think about what you're planning or what you're trying to do and what your best course of action is, and be more methodical about what you're doing and less likely to be basically sucked into a trap or do something that's going to actually undermine your own position and make things significantly worse. So bottom line, you are going to know when the time is right. If you're in the beginning stages of this and you're just learning about what you're dealing with, and you're still trying to figure it out, and to be perfectly honest, if you are at this channel and you're watching this video before your marriage or your relationship is completely disintegrated, especially if you have kids, it puts you at a tremendous advantage because you have the opportunity to really watch and learn what's going on and get a better feel for how this is going to go forward. For me, even though it was an emotional response, I still had criteria, like I was talking about before, about my level of what I thought the relationship was. Like, for instance, at the beginning stages of this disaster, so to speak, I still had the feeling or the impression that we still basically cared about each other. So, I mean, I was lowering which this was partly bad, but I was lowering my bar for what I thought the relationship was and what my expectations were, until it basically got to the point that it was just too low, right? In other words, if you don't really, I mean, in my situation, if she didn't really care about the relationship, or she didn't really care about me, and there really wasn't fundamentally a foundation of love there, I'm not even going to say respect, then there was absolutely nothing there, right? And for me, that was a deal breaker to where I just couldn't deal with it anymore. And and I was really fighting that. I mean, it wasn't one of those things where I was trying to find a reason to leave. To be honest, it was the opposite for me. I was trying to find a reason to stay. It was like, okay, so if this is the relationship, if this is the whole relationship, and this is what I thought it was, well, okay, maybe it's this. Well, okay, maybe it's not that. Maybe it's this level. Okay, well, maybe it's not that. Maybe it's this. And when it finally hit the rock bottom, and it was just not not enough for me to stay, it fell apart. So again, you have to find, you have to rationalize that through your own process. A lot of that is as simple as do actions follow words? What they're saying does it follow what they're doing? Are they basically backing up what their emotions and their feelings with real action? More than likely, if you're dealing with a toxic person who's more than likely a narcissist or has strong narcissistic tendencies, you're not going to see that, right? Because they're not really capable of it. They can mimic things to you. They can pretend to have emotions and stuff, but they can't sustain it. And typically what they say and what they're able to do are two different things. So if you're able to take a step back, you're able to pretty much figure out what's going on rather quickly, and that's going to help you make your decision. Okay, finally, I would say no matter what, whether you're at the beginning stages of this and you're not sure whether you're going to leave, or let's say that you have decided, oh my God, this is it, I can't deal with it, this absolutely makes sense, I know what this person is. no matter what you do, I would highly encourage you to learn everything you possibly can. Go through all the different videos, the different channels, the different sites, learn everything about what you're dealing with so that you know what your expectations are going forward. Because here's the significant little nugget of information that you need to remember is as soon as you are no longer a suitable source of supply, meaning when they feel that it's lost, that they're not going to get what they want out of you, it changes in an instant. And what you think your relationship is before that stage, and however bad you think it is going to change significantly whenever they realize that they can't control you anymore, that they can't manipulate you anymore, that you're not going to play the games anymore, and that you have boundaries that you're going to follow. As soon as that happens, and this is what happened in my case, and this is what's happened in a lot of people's cases, as soon as you are no longer a suitable source of supply, you are cast away in an instant, and it's like, you know, the crumbs of attention or affection that you were getting before will be gone in an instant. And I'm telling you right now that it is one of the most difficult and bizarre things that you'll ever experience. So learn everything you can. Get your game face basically on, understand what you're dealing with so that if you do decide to leave, you don't do it blind. I did it blind. When I left, I had an unrealistic expectation of what I thought I was dealing with and what I thought was going on. I didn't think she was a narcissist. I didn't even know what a narcissist was. What I thought is that she wanted to be with somebody else and that she just wouldn't tell me, didn't want to hurt my feelings, so to speak, but that's the reason why she wasn't able to give me affection. See, so even in that, I was trying to come up with excuses on why things were the way they were. And that blew up in my face because as soon as my status of supply was erased and my value was erased, it made absolutely no sense. And then you start into the smear campaigns and you know, the triangulations and all those different things. And if you're not prepared for it, it will be a very devastating experience. Okay, so on that, I'm gonna wrap this video up. Just before I do that though, just remember, don't let anyone pressure you in to make a decision. You have to make your own decision. Don't even, you know, even what I'm telling you, you know, if you ultimately decide that you need to spend more time working on it, and if that's the right decision for you, then that's okay. If that's what you need to do to be okay with yourself or to process this, that's okay. You know, if you've gotten to the point that you can't deal with it anymore and you need to basically hit the eject button and escape, that's okay too. The only difference with that is like I said, try to learn everything you can to where you are in a better position going through it. Okay, so on that, if you want to add to the conversation, add that in the comments below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you like the channel, please subscribe. If you haven't gone over to the Dad Surviving Divorce website and sign up for the newsletter, I would really appreciate you do that. And I will chat with you guys on the next video. Take care. Bye.